There, my name is Kelly Frazier, and I think I did the same thing yesterday. I totally missed the little ding when the recording starts. That's okay. My name is Kelly Frazier. I'm the founder of Connecting, and that is where leaders learn how to connect both logic and compassion in their life. I'm also the Day of Love called Inspired Creator because it really truly did not come from me, but from a higher source where I love to listen. So that is where, for Day of Love, is where brides and grooms learn to stay emotionally connected to God, to themselves, and to other people. Today we're going to answer a simple question. What does it take to stay married for 10, 20, 30, 40, and maybe even 50 years in a successful marriage? What does a successful marriage look like? How do we learn to work together to create harmony? Maybe to create more love than what our parents had. Well, I've invited 10 women here to share their success marriage tips with you today, and you're only going to hear from a couple of them today, but if you would like to hear all 10 of their success tips, which they have been amazing, let me just say that, you're welcome to go to dayoflove.org where you can actually sign in, and although the video is not ready quite yet, it will be there, and we will be sending it to you through your inbox if that's something that you would love to hear. I cannot tell you how much I've learned just by interviewing these women. It has been very profound in some cases. We had someone who had lost her husband recently, and they had been married for 20 some odd years. So, I mean, you're really going to hear some incredible stories. So I do want to invite you again, if you are interested in hearing these 10 success tips in marriage, go to not Kelly Frazier, but dayoflove.org. Dayoflove.org is where you can sign that up. All right. So today we are going to talk to two lovely ladies, and one of them I actually had the privilege of getting to know years ago, 13 to be exact, as we calculated just a few minutes ago. The other one I just had the privilege of meeting, I think probably at the beginning of this year, maybe at the end of last year. She had invited me to interview on her show, so I want to introduce to you today Rosemary. And Rosemary, I'm going to actually ask you to introduce yourself, and then just go ahead and tell us how long have you been married, and give us your success tip.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Nickel. I'm with Motivating Other Moms, where I interviewed Kelly, and she was an amazing guest. But I have been married for 10 years, and we have two kids, a 10-year-old boy and a 8-year-old daughter. Gosh, I want to keep calling her 6. I don't want her to grow.
Rosemary, I'm sorry. I just want to interrupt you because we're not seeing your face. At least I'm not. I don't know if Mary Lynn. Okay, I know that you're there, but I'm not actually seeing your face. We just see the picture of you.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, no problem. I'll tell you what. How about we'll just go ahead and no, I'd really like to see your face. Why don't you go ahead and try closing out, and then going to that link on Facebook again, click it, and it'll bring you right back in. Can you do that for me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So in the meantime, we are actually going to just switch over. She's going to come right back on, so we're just going to hold tight here real quick. Mary Lynn, let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
How many years have you been married?
We just celebrated our 14th anniversary on 4th of July.
14th. I was trying to think, are you the one that has been married the least duration, or I don't think so. I think there's one other person that they've been married for 10 years, so that's why I was wondering. I am so excited to be able to talk to everybody at different decades of marriages, because it really gives us such a cohesive type of learning where there's a lot of women who have struggled in the same areas. There's a lot of women who might even give the same success tip, but because everybody has different experiences in their lives, they're able to share differently, but yet it pulls everything together. It's just amazing how that works. But yeah, I'd love it. So hopefully Rosemary will be able to come right back on. We'll give it just a couple seconds here, and if she doesn't, then we are going to switch right over to Mary Lynn. We already know that she's been married for 14 years. Now we just need to know her last name. All right, Mary Lynn, why don't you go ahead and do that? Just go ahead and start.
Okay. My name is Mary Lynn, and like we just mentioned, I have been married for 14 years, and I guess I have 2 or 3 big things. My husband, when I told him what I was doing, he said, "Tell them to marry an idiot. They make great pancakes." So I think sarcasm and humor form maybe the foundation of our marriage, for better or for worse. Um, but I think that part of it is accepting who you got.
Acceptance.
Yeah, you and that I think that's another reason you should date a little while, like over a year before you get married, because I've heard it said you should summer and winter a person, get through all the newness and warm fuzzy feelings before you decide, whether this is going to be a commitment you can make. Because then you get into like who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we don't take ourselves very seriously at all. But pancakes are good. I will say that he does make excellent pancakes.
I guess you'll never starve, right? Because you can always have
I
pancakes.
can always have pancakes. The other part of acceptance, I think, is accepting that your partner, your spouse, existed before you came along. They have friends and family of their own that, my husband has still his close circle of friends he's been friends with since 8th and 9th grade. They were there a long time before I was ever around, and so I don't feel like I have any right to say, you know what, you don't need to be friends with those people. He has some friends who have their spouses purposely separated them from their friends. And so he lost some very good friends because of their spouses, which I think is really sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. Can I ask you a question about that? Okay, so as people learn and evolve and grow and become more educated, more in tune, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, the whole gamut, when a person grows, sometimes they do choose to separate themselves from relationships that may not be the healthiest for them. So I love that little face in the corner. And I think in some cases it's probably not a bad thing if they do separate from those relationships that seem a bit more strained, maybe that would influence the family unit or the relationship. What would you say about that?
I'd say I can think of an instance where we had a couple we were friends with that, the husband, Aiden, could you go play for a minute, buddy? Thanks. Otherwise, we will create a monster that we cannot get rid of. We had a couple we were friends with, and the super nice people, very creative people. The husband started he got in with a new group of people. This wasn't a previously existing group yet. He kind of made some new friends, and would bring them over to their house. That they bought this house that they were remodeling in anticipation of starting a family. Husband started bringing the guys over to the house all the time. Eventually, it led to, hey, I'm in my early 30s. I would like to dump my successful business and become a rock star. And sadly, the marriage, because of that, because he kind of went off the deep end, guys over at the house at all hours of the day and night, and she had a job, she had to go to work in the morning, and just they went in two completely different directions. So yeah, I can see that, those were definitely toxic relationships that, that shouldn't have happened.
Well, I appreciate that. So what you're saying then is acceptance is probably your success tip, to be able to enter a marriage and accept whatever relationships were previously, as long as they're not detrimental to your relationship.
Yeah, there's always an exception.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, there always is. But I agree 100% that it is extremely important and valuable to who you are to be able to have that acceptance, because not only are you going to have to accept your friends, your spouse's friends, but you're going to have to accept the strangeness of your spouse. I mean, we're all strange to some level, so I mean, it truly is. You have to learn how to have acceptance. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
And I think it comes. You have to have your own self-confidence in order to accept.
Right.
That. I think. The instances of his friends whose girlfriends' wives pulled them away from the friendship, because he had a really tight group in high school and on into college of guys who, they did everything together, and they were pretty close. And I think these girls at the time had a basic level of insecurity that they felt these guys, their boyfriends' friends were a threat to their relationship, which they weren't.
Right. Well, I think a lot of what we experience, what we see in someone else, we often see within ourselves.
Yeah.
And truly is, that's where we have to evolve. We have to mature. We've got to take responsibility for those feelings and those thoughts and be able to say, okay, is this just me? Is there something I need to work out in that little luggage of baggage behind me? Or is this something real that I can change and experience acceptance? So
absolutely.
Marilyn, thank you. I really appreciate that. No one has said that one yet, so very good. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did something new.
All right, so now we're going to turn it over to Rosemary. And Rosemary, I'm sorry, but I still do not see your beautiful face. And
I don't. I've tried trying different things here, trying to get it to come up, and it's just not working. And here I put on makeup and everything.
I know. Okay. Well, the good news.
My teeth.
The good news is we can still see your face, so we can hear your voice, and this is a great thing because even though it is video where people can actually see it, they're also going to be hearing it, so that's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask you to do the same thing. Tell us your name, how long you've been married, and what is your marriage success tip?
My name is Rosemary, and I am married to the amazing Niall, and have 2 wonderful kids, 10 and 8. And we are pretty darn happy. We both have been married before. So we have experience in what not to do and what to do.
Okay.
We went to the college of hard knocks. We both married at a very young age. I married at barely 16, and he married at 16. He had a son at 16. I did not. I did not have kids. I just wanted to get out of my house. I was not a happy home environment. So I married for the wrong reasons, and of course I married the first person that asked me and paid attention to me. So it does come back to getting to know who that person is. I knew my husband now. I knew him 12 years before I married him. So we really knew each other, really, really knew each other. And I agree, you need to know each other before you get married. There were a lot of conditions that I put on him before we got married. And one of them was we had started our relationship with sex, and I pulled that out. I felt led by God to pull that out. And so for the year prior to us getting married, I pulled that out of our relationship, and it made all the difference in the world. It prepared us for marriage, and it prepared us for kids, and all the things that we were going to face. Because if you take that part out, then you're truly learning to love each other for who you are. That part really does mess relationships up.
Yeah, I love what you're saying because there are so many couples, and I just had a conversation about this with my daughter. So many, especially young people, but it's not just young people. It is every single age who runs the full gamut of being able to have sex, and then having this awareness that okay, if I do on my wedding night, what is it going to look like if I've already done all that? How exciting is that really going to be if there's nothing new there, So yeah. That in itself would, for me, it would create this desire to say, okay, no, this is not going to happen. I love what you're saying. So go ahead and elaborate. I'm sorry I cut you off.
So what that did was it leads back to it prevented us from making a lot of the mistakes that Marilyn was talking about of marrying somebody that you may not know really who they are because you haven't taken the time to get to know, and he was having a a commitment issue, and I didn't feel like he was fully committing in the way he should commit. And I said, until I know that you are fully committed to this relationship, and this, and this is going to happen, it's not happening. So my tip that I'm bringing today is ask for what you want. We don't ask. We're afraid to ask for what we want. And it has served me so well. And then, you know what? Honestly, until this very moment, till I was describing our relationship before we got married, I didn't realize I was asking for what I wanted then. And I'm
Yeah.
really proud of myself for doing that because it's not easy. So we get into, once you get married, you can also, and then you, especially when you have kids, you can get resentful from your, if you're a stay-at-home mom, resentful to your spouse because they're not doing enough. And then there's also guilt that comes along the way that you don't want to ask your spouse because you feel like they're already doing too much. And there's this like teeter-totter thing. Just sit and have a conversation and be honest. Don't attack them. Attacking never works. It puts them on defense immediately, and you just say, I realize this is my problem, but this is how I'm feeling. What can we do to fix this? I need this fixed. And so I work with entrepreneurial moms, and it is such a common problem that they don't ask for what they need and what they want, and it creates unhappiness, and it is so incredibly true. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And so many women are afraid to ask for that, but once they start doing that and once they start taking time for themselves, if your cup is not full, nobody is going to fill it for you. Never. Only you can fill that cup. So by asking for what you want, you get happier, you get healthier, and it keeps a happy relationship. Your spouse wants to know, believe it or not. A lot of women think they don't, and they don't say anything. You will be surprised if you open up and ask your spouse in a loving way, not an attacking way, what will happen.
I love this. This is a great tip because it is so valuable and important. And I want to give an example because I don't think a lot of women know what it looks like to actually ask if they've never done it before.
Good point,
So
yes.
here is a great example of that. I, at one point in my life, had so much going on that I was utterly overwhelmed. I was trying to handle business and family and children and homeschool, and oh my goodness, there were so many balls to juggle. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to sit down and write out everything that I do, from laundry to mopping floors. I'm going to just list it all out. I did that, and then I brought it to my family that night at dinner. And I looked at this long laundry list of things that I had, and I said, guys, I'm going to ask you to do something, and it's okay if you don't want to do it, but I would love to send this little list around and see if you guys would volunteer to help me with any of these things, because I'm not sure that you guys really fully understand how much I actually do, so I want to educate you on that. Just look at the list and see if there's something you can volunteer for. I kid you not, I was dumbfounded at the response to that. I thought that list would come right back to me and no one would volunteer for anything. They took at least a third of everything on that list off of my plate, which brought what I did down to a manageable state. And it was so empowering, and I'll never forget it. Nor will I ever go back to being in that overwhelmed state, because I learned to ask that night. So I am so proud of you for being able to recognize that and giving that tip today, because it is one of the most empowering tips I think that we've had.
And that, asking for what you want includes the bedroom.
Yes.
A lot of women are very uncomfortable with asking for what they want, how they want it, how they like it, what makes them feel good. And that is only going to add to your relationship. And again, you will be surprised how your spouse reacts. It's like, really? You want to do that? Let's do it. They want to please you as much as you want to please them.
That's right. Fantastic. Marilyn, I'm just going to go back to you real quick. What do you think about what Rosemary is saying? Do you find that in your own relationship has been a tremendous help?
Yeah, I think, and for us, we go back and forth between who's busier and who's not busier, and so it's a constant, this is what I have going on, this is what I have going on, how can we divide things up so that everything's covered properly? It boils down to just communication. What do you need? Like, I'm running to the store, do you need anything while I'm out? For me, that's what it is. Just keeping the lines of communication open, and come to the table with an attitude. You both have to do this, obviously. I want to help you out.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I would like to say that really starts with respect for each other. Oh, yeah. And if you are dating someone that doesn't open doors for you, doesn't pull a chair out for you, they're not respecting you, it's old-fashioned, but if they aren't doing things to show you before you get married that they respect you, they are going to respect you a lot less after you're married.
Yeah, respect is huge.
Yes, it definitely is. Well, I guess we'd have to save that one for another tip, huh? Ladies, I cannot tell you how valuable this is truly. I mean, it's such a gift to be able to find women like yourselves who have been married for, a good amount of time. Women who are thinking about marriage don't often know what to expect. None of us did, but it's something that we've learned to grow into, to accept, to ask, to do all these incredible, really nurturing things for our relationship. And when you can wake up in the morning and say, I wonder how I can make my spouse's life easier today, you tend to really roll out a lot of ideas, a lot of creativity and a lot of communication, because like as Marilyn said, then you start talking, how can I help you? What can I do? Mm-hmm. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I want you folks to go to www.dayoflove.org. And if you're on your telephone, I hear that very recently we have had some issues with on the phone. It goes to a porn site. I know.
Oh, no.
We're working that out right now, but if you go to it a second time on your phone, it no longer goes there. I don't know what's going on there. Our host people are trying to work that out with us. But if you go to it on the computer, there's no problem whatsoever. This video will have all 10 women who are giving their success tips, and it's just going to be a fabulous thing for some wonderful couple who is just starting out. So if you know that this is there and you're listening to this video, make sure that you're sharing that website so that any bride and groom can go and get some fabulous information. Ladies, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.